Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Everything Business, right? Thank you for joining in. And as you can see, right, we'll be talking about the books of original entry, right? And more specifically, the purchases daybook or the purchases journal, right? Or the purchases book, right? So let's get right into it. I'll be doing a series of small videos, short videos, so that you guys can watch and follow easily. All right, so let's get right into it. So in understanding the books of original entry, you need to understand where they fall in the accounting cycle. So if you look back at the accounting cycle, as you are seeing displaying now, right, you see that we start with our source documents and then we move to the books of original entry. The books of original entry, they are basically the first books that we record transactions in, right? So really and technically, the first bit of accounting information that you collect would be from your source documents, right? But then when we start to record the information from those source documents, we have to use the books of original entry. And that is the reason why we normally refer to them as the first book that we record transaction in. It's really where the bookkeeping process technically begins from an accounting perspective. So this is where the books of original entry falls within the accounting cycle. All right. Now we have 7 books of original entry, right? Some persons will say we have 6 books of original entry, but and then technically the petty cash is a book of original entry, right? Some teachers will teach it separate, apart from the topic of books of original entry, while some teachers will include it, right? Either way is perfectly fine. All right, so let's look at the books of original entry. Right, you have the purchases journal or the purchases daybook, the sales journal or the sales daybook, the purchases returns journal, or the purchases returns daybook or the returns outwards daybook. Right, we have the sales returns journal or the sales returns daybook or the returns inwards daybook. We have the cash book, general journal, and finally the petty cash book. Right, I will be doing a video on each of these books so that you can understand how to use them and why they are utilized. All right, but today we are going to be starting with the purchases journal or the purchases daybook. So these are the things that you need to know about the purchases daybook, right? So the purchases daybook, what is it used for? The purchases daybook is used to record credit purchases, or I could go a step further and say goods bought on credit. Right, so the purchases daybook is only used to record goods, right, that are bought on credit, right? And it is important for you to ensure that you remember, right? Remember that, right? So it is important that you remember that, right? So it relates to only goods, because you can purchase assets, fixed assets on credit just the same. Right, but the purchases daybook is only used to record goods that you bought on credit. That is why you have purchases, because purchases mean to purchase, which means to buy. So anytime you are buying goods on credit, you know you're talking about the purchases journal or the purchases daybook, right? So that's one thing that you have to absolutely remember. Can't forget that. The next thing is that the information that you need to make up the purchases journal or the purchases daybook, it comes from the purchases invoice. So the purchases invoice is the source document for the purchases daybook. Remember that as well, right? Now, in the purchases daybook, obviously, if you are buying on credit, it means that you have suppliers or you have creditors. So you will find the names of your creditors or your suppliers in the purchases daybook. And finally, right, an important piece of information is that the purchases daybook or the purchases journal is linked to the purchases ledger, and you have to remember that. All right, so the purchases daybook is linked to the purchases ledger. All right, so if you don't know what the ledgers are, right, then the ledgers, right, we have 3 types of ledgers, right? 3 main types of ledgers. We have the purchases ledgers. We have the purchases ledger that is used to show the double entry, right? Show the double entry accounts for your suppliers or your creditors, right? You have the sales ledger that is used to show the double entry accounts for your debtors, right? Or you can see your customers, right? And then you have the general ledger, right? The general ledger, it shows really all other accounts. So it's pretty simple, right? I don't really see where the confusion come in, because it's pretty simple, right? Pretty simple to understand the ledgers, all right? So I want you to just pay keen attention to that bit of information, right? So the purchases ledger, it shows the double entry accounts for your suppliers or your creditors, right? The sales ledger, it shows the double entry accounts for your debtors or your customers, and the general ledger really shows everything else, all right? So if you're buying goods on credit, then it therefore means that you have a supplier, and if you have a supplier or you have a creditor, right, then it therefore means that you will have to put the information in the purchases ledger. Now, enough talk about that. Let's look at a practical example, right? Let's look at a practical example of how to do a full set of records, right, from your purchases journal straight down to your general ledger. All right, let's look at it. Now let's look at this example here. Now there are a couple of things I want you to identify and to figure out, right, or to pay attention to before we even start. I want you to look at how the purchases daybook is drawn up, right? If you realize the purchases daybook has what, 4 columns. These are the columns 1, 2, 3, 4. Column for the date, column for your suppliers, folio column that shows the cross-reference where I can find the other side of the transaction. Remember, double entry. And then the amount that shows the money that is involved, right? So all journals are drawn up in the same way, just like this, right? So you have 4 columns, just like this, right? The headings might slightly different, especially when you reach to the details part, right? The information here might be a little different depending on the type of book you're dealing with. But for the most part, all journals are drawn up in the same way. We have 5 journals, right? 5 journals: purchases, sales, returns in, returns out, and general journal. All those 5 journals look the same way. As a matter of fact, for those students who are in high school, you can go and buy these books at the bookstore, right? And you can just buy one journal and it can serve the purpose for all of these things, for all of these other journals. All right, so let's look at the transaction. May 3, bought goods, right, on credit. It's supposed to be bought goods on credit from P Parking, right? Bought goods on credit from P Parking for $600, receiving $10 discount, right? Now, this $10 that you see right here, it's really what we call a trade discount, right? Now, we have to make a distinction between trade discount and cash discount. Your teachers will talk about it. Well, let me just give you a little synopsis here. The trade discount, right, it normally takes place between traders, right? So you are a trader in this case because you are buying on credit and you're normally buying in larger quantities, right? So that is what a trade discount is. The trade discount, the important thing that you need to remember about a trade discount is that the trade discount is not recorded in the books, right? And so when you look at this bit of information right here, right, it says receive $10 discount. So it is $600 you were supposed to pay, but you receive $10 discount, which means that you are reducing the amount that you are supposed to pay by $10. We do not record the discount, right? And so what you will have to do now, you will have to now subtract the 10, right? Subtract the 10 from the 600. That will leave us with $590, right? So $590. So you record the information there in the purchases journal, but you record the information without the discount. So you put in a date, May 3, right? then the name of the supplier, P Parking. Purchases ledger shows where the other side of the transaction is. Remember that we talk about the journal or the daybook being linked to the ledger, the purchases ledger. Then the amount, right? Having taken out the $10, right? So that is very important information, especially in the folio section, right? You can even be more specific and put the exact page in the purchases ledger where you can find P Parking's account, right? So say for example, P Parking's account is in the purchases ledger, but it is on page 3. You can put the folio number there, right? The page number. So it is in the purchases ledger. That's what PL stands for. And then I put the page 3. All right. And then the amount, which is $590. But we are not finished as yet. So if you remember double entry principle, for every debit, there must be a credit, and for every credit, there must be a debit. Right. So now we need to go over to the purchases ledger to find P Parking's account. So you have to draw up your purchases ledger as shown right here. You draw it up, right? And then that is just a heading. Then you put in P Parking's account, see it there, and the information will be recorded on the credit side in P Parking's account. And the reason why we are recording the information on the credit side is because P Parking is really giving us goods. He's a creditor, right? He's giving out goods, and so you have to show the fact that he's giving out goods. That's one way to look at it if you're using the receiving and payment method. Another way to look at it is the fact that P Parking is a creditor, which is a liability account, and to increase his account, right, in this scenario, you have to make a credit entry. All right, and so you write the amount of money that is that will be paid to him in the future, because remember, you know, this is on credit, so you're not really paying any money right now. So it is $590. All right, and if you realize we don't record this discount, it's not recorded there any at all, right? Because this is a trade discount. All right. So for the next transaction, it says May 13, right? Bought goods and credit from A. Allen for $500, right? And you receive a 15% discount, right? Now, this is a bit tricky for some persons because they may not understand how to calculate the 15%, but it's pretty simple. 15% is simply 15 divided by 100. That's what 15% is, right? So 15 divided by 100 would be equal to 0.15. So you are finding 15% of $500, which is $75, and the $75 is the discount. We are not going to record the discount, right? And so $75 minus $500, sorry, minus 75 will give us $425, right? So that is the amount that we would record there in the purchases table. So we go over again to the purchases ledger. We draw up and we write in A. Allen's account, right? We make a credit entry in A. Allen's account because he's a creditor. We are increasing his account, or you can look at it and say, well, A. Allen is paying out goods to us. That means a theme account giving out, or his account is giving out, or her account, whichever one you want to use, whichever reason you want to use. So it is $425, and you write down that amount of money. Now we are finished with our transactions. We have to know total and balance of our journal. Let's look at these two figures, right? So you have 425 plus 590. That gives us a total of $1,015, right? $1,015, and then you normally balance off the account at the end of the period. So May 31, and you would write this narration, transfer to the purchases account. The purchases account, you would find it in the general ledger, right? In the general ledger. And let's say it's on page 7 in the general ledger, right? So you put it general ledger, page 7, and then the amount is 1,015. This would normally double line, all right? So you would double line that, and that is the total of your purchases journal, and that is how you balance off your purchases journal. Now you will have to go over now to your general ledger. So you draw up a general ledger, and you write in your purchases account, right? Now, if you remember the tip from when we were doing double entry, the purchases account is always debited. So we are going to write the information on the debit side. So May 31, total credit purchases for the month is $1,015, and you would double line this amount. And really and truly, this is how you would do a full set of records for the purchases table. It really doesn't get much more difficult than this, right? And then that's basically it, right? You have to remember though, key points, when you're recording in the purchases journal, right? You do not record discounts in the purchases journal. That's one thing you need to remember. Also, that the purchases journal or the purchases daybook is linked to the purchases ledger, right? So you have to remember that. In the purchases ledger, you'll find your creditors account, right? And your creditors accounts, they are going to be credited because they are creditors accounts, right? And also, you have to transfer the total on the purchases daybook, right, to the purchases account in the general ledger. So in the general ledger, you will find both in the purchases account in the general ledger, you will find both cash and credit purchases because you want to total all the purchases, whether it be cash or credit for the month, and you show that in the general ledger, in the purchases account in the general ledger. All right, so thank you so much for viewing, and well, good. See you in the next one.